My name is Laura, and I am a mother to 2 grown-up boys who live with me in the household. I am slightly worried that this might affect my benefits. Could you advise?
Many of our residents run into difficulties paying their rent and/or their council tax once their children are considered no longer dependents and are now known as non-dependents. Normally, but not always, this is when they reach the age of 18. Other non-dependents who live in your house could be an elderly relative or a friend. Your partner or a joint tenant is not a non-dependent. Non-dependents are normally expected to contribute towards the rent, even if you receive benefits and are not working. But some people are exempt from these rules. Non-dependents are usually expected to pay towards the council tax as well. So this means even if you weren't paying council tax before your child turned 18, or whenever you stopped being eligible for child benefit for that child, you may find that your council tax benefit no longer covers the full bill. This is because a non-dependent deduction has been applied. It's worth noting, housing benefit or universal credit will still take a deduction from your benefits, even if your non-dependent doesn't actually pay you anything. Example, Mary is receiving universal credit and she's not in work. She gets full housing costs as part of her universal credit for her rent, and her council tax bills are low. Her son Josh, who is 21, also lives at home. He is seeking work, but in the meantime, he's not claiming any benefits for himself. Mary suddenly finds that her UC no longer covers her full rent, and her council tax bills have gone up. This is because her son Josh is now classed as a non-dependent, and he is expected to help with the rent and the council tax, even though he has no income. How much a non-dependent needs to contribute towards the rent depends on whether you get your help via housing benefit or via the housing costs element of universal credit, and the rules for both are different. Looking at universal credit, if you receive help with your rent via universal credit, a fixed sum of money is deducted every month for each non-dependent living in your household who is 21 years old or over. The amount increases each April, and at the moment it's currently £91.47 per month for each non-dependent who lives with you. For housing benefit, the amount of money deducted will depend on the non-dependent situation, namely their earnings. Even if they are not in work, a deduction may still apply. The more they earn, the higher the deduction. The lowest deduction for a non-dependent who is not working or is working and earning less than £176 per week pre-tax is £19.30 a week. So you would lose £19.30 a week for a non-dependent who was on a low income or not working. It's also important to know that some people do not count as non-dependents. Again, the rules are different, depending on whether your rent is paid by housing benefit or universal credit. The DWP and the council will often make mistakes about non-dependents. So if you think you shouldn't have a deduction in your rent, then seek advice from a welfare advisor. For either housing benefit or universal credit, if either you or your partner, i.e. the rent payer, are registered blind or you receive a certain disability benefit, then no non-dependent deduction should apply, regardless of that grown-up child's situation or income. For example, if you receive the daily living component of personal independence payment, otherwise known as PIP, if you or your partner receive middle or high rate care component of disability living allowance, or you receive attendance allowance. There should be no non-dependent deductions if your grown-up child receives one of the above benefits. For housing benefit, there should be no non-dependent deduction if the non-dependent is under 25, not earning, and on certain benefits such as universal credit, or if the non-dependent is a full-time student. For universal credit, there should be no non-dependent deduction if you receive one of the disability benefits mentioned above, or the non-dependent receives one of those disability benefits. On universal credit, there is also no deduction for any grown-up child under the age of 21, regardless of their circumstances. There should be no deduction for any grown-up child who themselves are responsible for a child under the age of 5. And there should be no non-dependent deduction for any grown-up child in receipt of carer's allowance. Remember, if you have non-dependents in your household, your benefit may be reduced. And if you or they don't make up the difference, you could lose your home. If you find you are struggling because of non-dependent deductions, seek advice from a welfare advisor.